All right, everybody, we're back on Complete Sentences Podcast, and we're joined by a special guest, the editor-in-chief of Shitty River Comics, Mr. Joe Kloun. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
All right. Hey, thanks so much for taking out the time to come and talk to me for a little bit today.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started recording. I found it was edition number 5 of Shitty River Comics. I found it at Vintage Vinyl, and I was just kind of thumbing through it, and I was like, man, I got to talk to this guy. I'm really interested in what's going on. I don't quite know what's going on here, but I want to find out more.
We're doing a lot, so I have a lot to talk about.
All right. Well, let's get right into it, man. What got you into doing this in the first place?
You mean comics or doing this series in particular?
this podcast right now.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, the comic book.
Well, I'll start at the very beginning. I lived in this terrible punk house down on Cherokee around 2006. It was right above Saks Quest. Well, what's Saks Quest now? And we would just get drunk all the time, and we would shoot the shit, and we'd just kind of make up stories and things like that. And so we decided to put together a TV show, and the TV show was called Clown's House, and it was kind of our St. Louis take on Young Ones, and so we got like 7 episodes written and stuff like that, and we were having fun just kind of getting drunk and writing. And that eventually kind of petered out, and everybody moved and went their separate ways. Everybody grew up. Years later, about 7 years ago, I was talking with one of the guys who's now working with me on Shitty River. He's kind of a silent partner, Ian. And I was talking to him. We were getting drunk on his porch one night, and a common theme.
Yeah, I've heard about those punk houses, man. Henry Rollins told me about one on one of his TV shows that I was watching one day.
They were nuts times. We did a lot of growing up in those days, killing off all the bad brain cells.
Nice.
I was talking with Ian, and we brought up the show, and he was, we were having fun, kind of talking about the stories and stuff like that. And, he was showing me some of his drawings, and like, well, we both had an interest in comics. Why didn't we put this together before? So we started putting together an idea for comics. So over the next couple of years, I was kind of putting together, writing a bunch of stories. I was kind of putting together artists. And eventually, after a lot of promotion, a lot of research, a lot of kind of putting together the structure, the idea of what we wanted to do, we came out with our first release. Our first release was a one-off written by myself and drawn by Dan Drake, or Dr. Dan the Pancake Man, as he goes by now. We did this one kind of one-off called A Third Date. It's it's hard to find now. I'm doing a reprint of all our original comics, and it was just like a short, crude story about a couple on their third date who have sex and for the first time, and it's awkward and weird, and there's some crying and some choking, consensual.
Sure.
And some condoms hitting the wall and sliding down, real grotesquely and all that, and that began the process.
What an awesome name. I mean, whenever you first said it, I wasn't really for sure what you're talking about, but that is about the time that all that kind of shit starts happening in a relationship, is probably around the third date.
Yeah. I don't know. It was kind of a joke between me and my friends. At the time we weren't really dating. We were more focused on trying to get our lives together.
Right.
So dating was always a funny experience. but we came up with the name Shitty River. We were kind of shopping names and stuff like that, and we realized that Big Muddy was already taken by the record company. So we said, screw it. We're not gonna have an homage to the Mississippi. We're gonna have an homage to River de Pere, the historic boundary of St. Louis City. So we've kind of been since then titling all of our comics and series appropriately to that.
And I mean, I figured it was something like that because there are a few shitty rivers around the St. Louis area for anyone that's from out of town. But I mean, like I said, I picked up number 5, so I don't know how often you guys put these out.
Well, we were doing the one-offs about every 3 months or so. I think there was a little gap in there. We had 3 one-offs before we started the Confluence of Crap series. The Confluence of Crap series started every other month, and now we're kind of quarterly. It's I've picked up some projects, so we're trying to include as many artists as possible, and with many professions, it's hurting cats.
Well, just from looking, in the I guess it's the first page or the other side of the cover here, there are a lot of contributors to this thing for such a small comic book. Do you do any of the artwork inside? Like, besides writing, are you doing any of the drawing or illustrations?
I have done some contributions. I've contributed myself, usually under silly assumed names. But one of the reasons why we took we started the series, the Confluence of Crap series, was try to take the focus off of me, and the project as the people who are putting it together, is oriented. We're trying to focus it on the artists themselves that are contributing. I have done some. I did the end pages is what I call them, the inside cover pages. I did that image in 5. It took me, I think, 3 weeks. I'm not really an artist, and so I'm working at it. I'm working on a couple of images myself for this next contribution to the series. But yeah, mostly I try to step back and let the real artists fill the pages.
Well, and I mean, you mentioned, you're working on other projects, which I do want to get into. And I also want to talk to you about the River de Press, which is a celebration of small press and the small press culture, which is coming up this coming May 9th. But before we get into that, I mean, I found this at my local Vintage Vinyl, just sitting with the posters and all that kind of stuff with the free merch. And whereabouts in St. Louis else can you find, your guys' comics? Are you all over the place, or how does it even get to other places?
We like to say that we distribute wherever comics and or beer are sold. So we'll distribute to, we'll distribute to comic shops. We'll distribute to bars around St. Louis, coffee houses, things like that. We have, we have like about 40 different locations around the city, including, Stone Spiral, which is a coffee house in Maplewood, to Kismet, which is a sort of art place down on Cherokee, to TikTok Tavern and off Grand there, and all over the place.
I just kind of stumbled upon it, so it's a lot. It's a bigger operation really than it seems whenever you just kind of stumble upon it. How did you kind of get a hold of all these artists and first kind of lay out this idea that we're going to do this comic book?
We one thing that we were trying to do as we were transitioning from the one-offs to the series was we were trying to kind of establish a name and establish a sort of a trust with the reader, and that's why with all of our one-offs we tried to pull in different artists to write draw the scripts that at the time I was writing. So we were trying to build a trust there, and with the contacting of all the artists just in that beginning process, we began to put together the sort of network that we have now, and we do a lot of researching, a lot of stalking, a lot of hey, you do art, you want to do comics and stuff like that. So it's a difficult process. It's always a constant search. We're trying to infiltrate different groups, different subgroups in the city. There are a lot of drawing groups that have meetings around town. There are a lot of different even collaborative comics that are happening that we will try to borrow people from and try to involve each other in and stuff like that. So it's a lot of work.
But now have you kind of wrangled up sort of a group of usual suspects that you use frequently, or?
We do have a lot of regular contributors, and that's fantastic. And I'm really happy because that kind of that shows a bit of faith in the publication. But we're always on the search for new and different people, and always trying to be inclusive as possible. I mean, we really don't want to be at all exclusionary in what we do, which is kind of why we present ourselves as the lowest common denominator, because we do accept even high art, or what we call high art.
Well, yeah. As soon as you open up the page at the one I'm looking at, it's got a really. If it was blown up, it's something that I would hang up on the wall. It looks like it's almost like a painting,
That is the work of Charlie Turner. He's a fantastic artist, more known, I guess, for his band, which actually, consequently, is the I guess double-edged sword. When finding these artists, for the most part, we'll have to go to shows and stuff like that, because a lot of the comic scene is tied in with the music scene. Charlie Turner plays in Van Buren, a sort of doom metal band. They're pretty cool, but we'll go to all these shows, and it's finding the guys or the band members or the outside artists who are doing the album work, or doing the promo drawings or the flyer art for these events that we kind of go after. A lot of them, that it's not necessarily conventional comic work, but I think it all fits. It all has a place.
Yeah, it's all good. In fact, I'm not much of an artist myself, and there's nothing in here that I would that I look at and say, oh wow, that's kind of shitty, like you would expect. It's all good artwork.
We run a bunch of stuff. We don't like to have any idea of good or proper art, but for some have commented that there have been juxtapositions in what they find as the quality of art, but whatever.
Well, and that leads me to another question. Has there ever been any circumstance where you've had to turn somebody down and just be like, for one reason or another, we can't really squeeze this into this comic, but maybe we'll use it in the future or something like that?
Well, for some artists, they'll send us, like we have because we like to be, inclusive and keep our comics very diverse, there will be some some artists rather that'll send us like 10 pieces, and it's like, okay, like we can use like 3. Um, but there has been one instance where I've had to turn down a submission, and that was just because of some language that I did not necessarily want to promote. Some derogatory. I don't want to say non-progressive language, but there was some words that are not something we want to print.
So, but basically, as far as art goes, I mean, as long as you don't use anything that's sort of hateful, there's a pretty good chance you can get your work into Shitty River Comics.
Yeah, we've joked around that it can be racist so long as it's funny,
right? And there is a fine line there, but there's definitely room for racial humor for sure.
Oh yeah, and that's what we're kind of joking about is like, yeah, no, we're not going to shy away from controversial topics or things that are kind of edgy, but so long as they're transgressive in a way and not just offensive. We kind of want to, not that we have our own agenda or anything, but we're not gonna run just slurs that don't really make sense or have context to the rest of the content. It's a pretty good chance that whatever you submit will run, so long as it's within a certain progressive idea, which I feel that all of our artists have been. So it's a good chance that we'll run it. We run pretty much everything.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, that's it definitely makes you kind of encourages you more to just throw your work in and just see kind of what you guys will take. I mean, do you guys have any like big presses, or how exactly is this little book being made?
We go through an arduous process of we put together each hard copy by hand. We'll take all the images and cut them out and paste them onto a paper. And some people I know won't like hearing this because they're like, oh, we could just do it on Photoshop or whatever. Yeah. Save your Photoshop. That's cool. And I'm not doubting anybody who does use it, but we like to do everything by hand, and then we'll take that and we'll like go to Kinko's, and then we'll run a hard copy, and then we'll take the hard copy to our little Xerox machine that we have, or that rather we are allowed to use by a very good friend of ours and big supporter of our group, Peter Wheeler, great guy. Want to mention him. Big supporter, and I'll just sit there and feed a Xerox machine paper and go run up to Alton and get ink sometimes, and that's it.
So you're doing the total labor of love thing with this. Just it's all old school.
Yeah, I mean it's an art in itself, and really I wasn't the one really putting them together at first. It was actually one of the other guys who I work on this project with, Lou Ice. He was kind of putting them together, and he was kind of teaching me the ropes, and so we've kind of been in and out putting it together and just learning the process and doing it by hand. You have it just makes it better. It feels better doing it. And I think you get a better product. And we've kind of, with 5, I mean, you haven't seen Confluence of Crap 1, but there's quite a difference, and we've gotten pretty good at putting them out now, or printing them. It was a little rough, not everything was as sharp as they could have been, or sometimes like a tiny bit of a border would get cut off or something like that. But that's a part of the process. So it's a lot of fun putting it together.
And it shows too, going through it. I mean, you can tell that a lot of work has gone into it, and it does. I think it makes for a better looking magazine. A couple other questions that I had about it. What are some of the coolest things that have come from starting this comic book?
I mean, we've met a great deal of people doing it, and we've had a lot of just really, really cool art, come through. And that's what it is, just meeting people and networking and, just kind of adventuring to other people's realms of art has been really fun, and going to different shows and stuff like that. In fact, this guy who I've been trying to work with, at least submit to the comic, he's done a bunch of things. John Strode, he had an art show last year down at Blank Space, and his stuff is amazing. And I wouldn't have known about him if I hadn't, talked to Curtis Tinsley, who does a bunch of stuff for 11 magazine, and he has a bunch of products out himself. He runs Silverhand Press, who are doing a show not this Sunday but the following Sunday at Foam. They have a lot of cool stuff out too, but I digress. It's a lot of meeting people, which is some of the coolest stuff, and it's really just about Lou Weiss and Ian and I sitting down and going over submissions and just kind of laughing, because there are a lot of great jokes and there's a lot of just really cool art. It's just the experience is really cool, and it's fun. Trying to interconnect a lot of these artists. We've built a great a network of artists, and there are people now who are aware and collaborate with others. And not that we'll take all the credit, but we like to think that we helped. So that's cool.
So that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Another one I want to ask you about this is, if you could change one thing about this comic book, what would it be?
Well, we in the very beginning, we were young, we were idiots, and again, we were trying to be, edgy and controversial and transgressive and all that, and we decided to call our comic Shitty River. And years later, we've realized how hard that is to market.
Yeah, that's got to be definitely hard to market.
I mean, it's not market in a way that we're trying to do all these big things, but when we're putting together a show or a call for artists out on KDHX, we have to say SR Comics or S River Comics or something like that. So if we were to change anything, I don't know, maybe a title without expletives. I mean, I still love it, and I still laugh every time I say it, and maybe a little more forethought.
Well, and the name, it doesn't necessarily, it makes you feel like you're reading something that is by people that just kind of, not that they don't care, but it's that they really don't care about what is high culture. They're just, we are what we are, and this is it. You do definitely get a feeling of that whenever you're reading this and you pick it up and look at the cover. And
I mean, and that was the idea. We were, as I've kind of mentioned before, when we were putting it together, we were translating things and from one medium to the next, and sort of ideas, and sort of putting together how we wanted to kind of form the idea for the comic. And as I talked to other friends who were doing art and stuff like that, a lot of us were kind of relegated to service industry jobs, and in some places, and some friends, dead end jobs. And so we wanted to kind of give an outlet for those who are very talented, to kind of kind of put out and not really worry about, oh, did I make this hoity-toity magazine, or whatever, oh, did Juxtaposition run my my comic that I sent him, or piece that I sent him, or anything. We kind of want it to be a base level. In fact, when I submitted to the Cake Festival, Expo, the Chicago Alternative Comics Expo, which is coming up this June, we presented ourselves as more or less a sort of pimple. The result of very talented filth, service industry filth that found its stuff stuck toiling in the pores of society.
Oh, that's awesome. That's an awesome way to describe something.
Yeah. So, and rather than squandering our talent, scrawling on cocktail napkins, receipts, or food tickets, we decided to get together and irritate the community through comics. So, that's another kind of facet to the name and to the idea. It's not that I want to change Shitty River, but and I still love it, but it's a little hard to get the wider attention.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Well, before we move on from the comic altogether, let's talk a little bit about River Depress. It's coming up this May 9th at the Skadium in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that kind of ties back into Cake. Somebody had notified me. I think it was Freezer Ben or Mr. Ben, who does Freezer Burn, which used to be available down at Vintage Vinyl. I don't know where it is now. He's been doing it for years. He's a phenomenal artist. He's been kind enough to lend some art to the comic every once in a while. He tipped me off to the Chicago Alternative Comics Expo, which is happening June 3rd and 4th this year. And so I filled out an application, scanned in and sent a bunch of the comics and stuff like that. And we were rejected. And this was I think this was last winter. So, I was feeling a little, hurt and childishly spiteful. We decided, screw it, we'll have our own festival or our own expo. So we did. We started putting together the expo, River Depress Expo, which is going to be inclusive of everybody, decidedly, just to kind of give a middle finger to Cake. We've been promoting it as having our cake and eating it too. You can tell I live my life off of caffeine and spite, but
it's hard not to sometimes, man.
But we have over 30 tables of small press purveyors, printmakers, artists, and stuff like that. Well, they're not all exactly spoken for. We do have tables available. We have 30 planned out to be tabled at. That's going to be happening from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on that Saturday, May 9th. And that's going to be free. And then the tables are going to be moved aside for some skating and some bands. Actually, a few of the bands that are playing, we have, we have Mother Meat, who's fantastic, especially if you're familiar with Butthole Surfers.
Oh, dude, they're one of my favorite bands of all time.
Well, check out Mother Meat. They're just really awesome. We have Blondie Brunetti coming in from Kansas City. One of the members, Don Beasley, has Fleur-de-Lys graphics out there in KC. He's done a lot of comic work. He's done a lot of work for the comic. He sent us some stuff. And Mother Meat has also sent some stuff in. We have Animal Teeth, who are tightly involved with Acid Cat Comics, who they have been participatory in the in Shitty River and I in their comics. So we're having them play. We have super fun Yeah Yeah Rocket Ship, which used to be the house band for Star Clipper. We're having them play. They're super great. Lot of fun. Very high energy. That's just a spectacle. That is really great. And then we have a super secret TBA who may or may not be Googleplexia. So we have them playing from 10 to 1:30, and that show will be $6.99.
Well, man, it just sounds like a day of just awesomeness.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to line up a like a food truck and stuff like that as well. Maybe some Indian food. I don't know. I don't know how that ties in. I guess it'll all be shitty in the end. But we have, we'll have a whole bunch of other stuff involved too. Different tablers. Maybe some people hawking 7 inches and stuff like that.
Some VHS tape traders and stuff.
Maybe. I mean, at least the records we can get away with saying that they were pressed. So
right.
We're going to try to diversify it. I mean, we're not opposed to it, but we want to make sure that the culture is properly represented.
Very, very, very nice, man. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you're in St. Louis, May 9th, check out, if you're from out of town, road trip in. It's going to be at 120 East Catalan Street in St. Louis. Yeah, it just sounds like just an awesome time.
It's actually, it's very much down south in South City. Short story here, A Confluence of Crap is actually another homage, if you will, and I will, to a place down by the confluence of River de Pere and the Mississippi. There was this old place that I was privileged to hang out at before it was torn down, called the Coal Factory. And it was just an old abandoned coal factory where, kids and people would kind of go down and run amok, and it was, a place where, if the cops came, you could hide and whatever, and then they'd leave, and then you'd continue partying on the crane and yell at barge workers and get really drunk and stuff like that. So A Confluence of Crap is a reference to that place. That is, basically the confluence of River de Pere and the Mississippi. And when we were, trying to find a place or putting together the idea for the expo, we decided, well, the Skadium is a great place, and it's right down there. So we decided to have it there.
I've never been to the Skadium, but it I'm definitely gonna have to come and check this out. It sounds like it's gonna be awesome.
I don't want to. It's a worn place. It's it's worn over the years.
Well, I'm sure if you're a reader of the comic book, it's probably what you'd expect, really.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's exactly what you would expect.
Well, if you can believe it, we've been talking for about 40 minutes. I'm talking with Joe Kloun from Shitty River Comics. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you just a couple more questions off subject of the comic and talk to you a little bit about your radio show, Nerd Nation.
Sure.
What's the story with your show here?
Well, actually, the show is now kind of it is now defunct. It was my former show, Nerd Nation. I should probably take that down off my Facebook. But that was a project I had taken on about around the same times as I was picking up some other projects. But it was every Thursday. I had a 2-hour slot on a internet radio network called My Talk Nation, and it was just this little dumpy cinder block radio station that was in a little suite underneath a liquor store in Overland. And so, I'd sit there and we'd have guests and we'd talk for a few hours every Thursday about comics and comic culture and nerd culture and different things, and do a lot of speculation and do a lot of drinking and just shooting the shit and stuff like that. That was a little different. I couldn't swear.
Right. Yeah, man. Even with internet radio, they still wouldn't let you get away with that.
Well, they were also on a network with a. They were getting their money through broadcasting church services.
Okay.
And so they were trying to create a network that cross-connected. But that, even saying that, I was preceding a show called Atheist Nation, which was, as we deemed it, all of the God, none of the time.
I also like how everything ends with nation too. That's cool.
Yeah, it was a fun project. In the end, there was a little contract dispute, and I ended up leaving. As in, I wanted a contract.
That's been a dispute for me too with stuff. Hey, let's write up a contract.
I was so close to getting a budget. I was so close. I mean, and it was really cool because I did a live broadcast out of Star Clipper, before they closed, or that was long before they closed. And I had done some interviews with some other big artists like Jeff Brown, and we had gone to Archon a couple of times on the Nerd Nation ticket. So I mean, we're trying to do a little more than we were given the budget for. So that was kind of what ended it all.
And then it gave you more time to work on some of these other projects. What are some of the other projects that you're into now besides the comic and the former radio show?
Well, I have my hand in many honeypots, and I guess that's the phrase. I'm not really sure.
I think I've heard that before.
Irons and fires or something. I don't know. I've also, since I started doing the comics, I started doing this charity show called the Sweet and Sticky Sexy Ice Cream Social, or more colloquially known, the Ice Cream and Porno. We started doing that because I thought it was funny. We screen vintage porn and serve complimentary ice cream.
Nice! What a combination.
Yeah, I was at work one day, and I was just sitting there eating ice cream, watching porn, and I realized this is a fantastic combination. So we do that, and all the proceeds go to Planned Parenthood.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
We've been doing that for a few years now. Again, always classics of the genre.
Well, I see here at the end of issue number 5, Let My Puppets Come, and all puppet porno.
Yes, that's gonna be a fun one. That is April 29th. That we have a whole stage production set up. We have we will be showing the film Let My Puppets Come, which is 1976. Was that Gerard Damiano, who did Deep Throat and a few other big films. He directed this, and it's really terrible. It's just a really bad movie, but it's funny. It's redeeming, and it's funny, and there's a lot of puppet intercourse. Wow. And we have the film that's going to be kind of split up and in between different stage shows. We're going to have 3 basically plays, or one play broken up into 3 segments over the course of the night. We are also going to include a screening of the Gluey Gooney Basement Show, which is a local show here in St. Louis. That's something to look up. And so yeah, that's gonna be a real fun night. And then we're gonna finish off the night at with a spin by Mr. Ben, and no hits. And ice cream is gonna come from Ice Cream Cakes down on Cherokee, and it's at the Crack Fox. I think I fit in all of my all the things I needed to mention.
Yeah, it's like I'm reading it right here from Shitty River Comics. And that is all accurate information. Well, so man, yeah, you're a busy guy. It sounds like I'm really glad that you were able to squeeze this in and take the time to talk to me about this stuff.
Oh no, it's great. It's fantastic. I'm kind of the mindset that idle hands, and it all came from trying not to just be a drunk idiot all the time, and so now I'm just a drunk idiot who does a lot of things.
That's more than a lot of the drunk idiots I know, though. So that's something to be proud of, man.
I guess.
Well, if anyone's listening, they want to contribute to your comic book, how can people contact you?
You can find us on Facebook, Shitty River Comics. We'll have contact info up there. Also, you can email us directly at shittyrivercomics@rocketmail.com. That's our email. You can find us there, or you can find me on Facebook. That's Joe Kloun, Klown, or Kloun. Klown. That's my stage name.
Oh, that's good. So you spell it differently whenever you're signing a check or something like that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So you can find us there, and we always have open calls for art and stuff like that, and it's typically black and white and in 5x8 dimensions, and send us.
And I'll definitely put up a link too on this podcast. And guys, definitely check out the River to Press on May 9th. Go check it out and see the man himself.
Yeah, I will be there. Probably sweating a lot and running around.
I actually might get the cover of this tattooed on my body at some point. I hate myself, but I hate you more. And then it's got a picture, just a cartoony face. I think that's a beautiful cover. So,
oh my God, yeah, no, it embodies. I think it embodies what we're trying to do, our general feeling.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for taking the time, man. We've almost been talking for an hour already, and I'd love to talk to you all day, but man, it sounds like you're a busy guy. I think I ought to let you go right now so you could go back to doing all the honeypots that you're talking about.
Right, yeah. Don't tell my girlfriend that.
Okay, I'll try to keep that on the down low.
All right, well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you, you let me ramble.
Oh, no problem. The pleasure's been all mine. And we are going to take a quick break here on Complete Sentences Podcast, and we will come back right after this.